All right. I'm going to call to order this formal session of the Yamaha County Board of Commissioners on March 6th at 10 a.m. And Ken, you want to kick us off with the flag salute? The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Flag salute. C is calendar session. I do have one addition. So I got an email from Jessica. Commissioner King's going to join us tonight for chat with the chair. Oh. Well, either way, let's put it on there just in case you change your mind. He'll be a guest along with Captain Brown from the Sheriff's Department and possibly Sheriff Sam Elliott. And that'll be for today at 6 p.m. Yeah, does anybody have any other additions, subtractions, changes?
Yeah, I mentioned that we do have AOC steering committees, legislative board of directors on Monday and steering committees tomorrow.
Friday and Monday, yep. Okay.
I don't think they have anything else to add.
Perfect. All right. Moving on. D is public comment. I see I have 2 comments to be made. If anybody else has comments, please fill out the tan card for anything that's a non-agenda item. Anything that is an agenda item, fill out. Oh, it's still a tan card. The green ones are public hearing. Yeah. If you're online, raise your virtual hand and you'll be called on. First up, we have Mayor Hillary Malcolmson. Long time no see.
I know, what, a few hours?
Yeah. That was a long day.
Good morning. Mayor Hillary Malcolmson, City of Lafayette. I just wanted to come this morning to personally thank Commissioner Johnston for your letter of support for our community project funding that we put in for our Canyon View Drive pump station. Not just because of the collaborative effort and the support, but I know it was such a quick turnaround since it was a last minute project that came up for us right at the deadline. And I just wanted to thank you for the quick response for us too. So
I appreciate that. And, you know, if you guys ever, I know the windows are tight dealing with, senators and Congress. If the window's ever a little bit larger, it's something that we can, if we can write the letter and I can, if it's something that we all agree on, we can get it right.
That we didn't have even.
I remember that one. It was like literally
Get
an
to the
hour.
board meeting. So I appreciate having us, that you were able to, at least through you, endorse it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Beth Kaiser. Name and address, please. Name and address, please.
I'm Beth Kaiser, 1400 Hoskins Street, Newburgh. Good morning, Chair Johnston and Starrett and Commissioner King. It's a great morning. I'm very thankful to be able to be here and talk with you or talk at you. It's a good day. We've got strong national leadership and strong local leadership here, and that's kind of what I want to highlight today. I'm encouraged by our local leadership. I kind of have a laundry list because I contacted all the leaders and just, well, not all of them, a lot of them, and just, hey, what are you guys doing? And so Commissioner Johnston's been very busy. He met with Bruce Starr twice this week. Bruce Starr wanted to make sure that Kit knew he was available to always be in touch and get questions answered and get support. So that's a wonderful relationship there. He had a meeting with Mayor Kim Morris, and it was really productive. It was supportive, and they've got a really good relationship going with the city of McMinnville and the commissioners, and that's great. He did a ride along with Sheriff Sam Elliott. They inspected the communication towers and made sure that they were in great condition because they're always working on making sure public safety is functional and funded. He testified on the floor at the Capitol for House Bill 3362. It was the 4% tire tax bill, which none of us want taxing, and people with fleets don't want that kind of taxing. It's a really bad decision, but you guys don't need to hear that. But he did some research and discovered that there's already a funding mechanism where you can buy a license plate specifically that will go to help reduce the animal vehicle collision. And so there's already a funding thing set up. So why add a tax? And so I thought that was brilliant leadership. He has been engaged in some strategic discussion with local leaders on using and maintaining the county's assets. And tonight is chat with the chair I went last time. It was very fun. Commissioner Sterrett, her list is kind of hard for me to read off, but she worked with EMS providers to ensure safety for Yamhill residents. I think it was on the response time for the ambulances. She met with the Board of Health to discuss, sadly, the 4 recent overdose deaths in our community, which is tragic. She engaged with Clatsop, Tillamook, and Polk County commissioners for updates on the Northwest Seniors and Disability Services. And she is working with Oregon Health Authority and Oregon Department of Human Services to address funding shortfalls for mandated services. These things are so important, and testified against several bills that were going to harm Yamhill County. And she continues to work with all these things. For me, her dedication, compassion, and work ethic makes her the respected leader that we need in our county. I talked with Lafayette Mayor Hillary Malcolmson. She's actively engaging with her community. She received this award last night. I assume Kit will talk about that later because Kit presented it. I spoke with McMinnville City Councilor Chris Chenoweth. He says he and the mayor have a great working relationship, and with the council, and they are he said, right sizing the bond that they have for getting the community center improved and the pool and the parks, and they want to be fiscally responsible in this hard economic time for the citizens of McMinnville, and they want total transparency. So they're doing some really good work there. I won't go into it. Mayor Bill Rosacker continues to have a fantastic working relationship with the city manager and the police chief. And for me, they're keeping the homeless at bay, and that makes me very happy. The city is functioning wonderfully. I mean, it's amazing. So the county and the city government are working well together. We have a fantastic group of leaders who are focused on serving all the people and not just one group. They're prioritizing solutions over political distractions. Their dedication and teamwork are making a real impact in our community. It's noticeable. I'm impressed by the commitment and results we see in our community. I'm grateful that we don't have leadership like Andrea Salinas here in Yamhill County. I know she represents us, but she's not here locally. She disrespected the President of the United States by walking out during his speech, a speech she claimed on social media that she wanted to hear. Instead of honoring her word and listening, she decided to be disruptive and disrespectful to the president. And that really bothers me as So anyhow, that kind of behavior does not represent true leadership. Leaders should be honest, respectful, and willing to engage even when they disagree. Here in Yamhill County, we are doing so much better. We have leaders who stand by their word, work for the people, and focus on real solutions instead of political stunts. I'm proud of our leadership, and I know that as long as we continue to support strong, principled leaders, we will keep moving forward and in the right direction. So thank you so much for what you all do, and God bless your efforts.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Is there any comments online? Seeing none. Moving on, department updates, we have none. Item F is work session, we have none. Item G is the consent agenda.
Chair, before we
Yes.
move too far, just to acknowledge that we did get written public comment leading up to the meeting, and that was shared with the commissioners.
Yes.
And
So-
someone asked that one be read into the record. Should be in our,
Yeah, just to clarify, we typically, that's completely up to if the board wants to read that into the record, but we typically, when we get written comment, that's, we'll usually have.
I
this
think
part
she
of the
made a
meeting,
request
And it's up to the
up to the
board.
chair.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it here. Hang on.
Do you want to be able to read it?
I can read off my phone here. I just gotta find it. There's 3 or 4 that were submitted.
I can give you my computer here.
That's all right.
I got it pulled up.
All right.
I think that's the right one.
Mm. Don't. Okay, it says Yamhill County Commissioners, back in September when David was running for his office, he posted on social media, quote, "As the only non-affiliated candidate running for this nonpartisan position, I'm committed to ending partisan division and delivering real, practical solutions for Yamhill County residents," end quote. After his latest tour through Washington, D.C., he has done the opposite, but at least he's shown us who he really is. I'd say thank you to David for finally telling us the truth, but unfortunately that means he has been feeding us the same thing he shovels out of the stalls in his barn. David, it's really disturbing that you choose to align yourself and your talking points with one of the most divisive and partisan politicians, Andrea Salinas. It's one thing to accept an invitation from a congresswoman. It's another thing to post her same extreme talking points, go on a media blitz with her and join forces on these far left positions as, in quotes, ours. Your new buddy, Andrea, was so disrespectful to our democracy, she walked out of the president's address to Congress and had it planned for so long she had to bring her black resist shirt with her in her luggage. Where were you, ? Did you walk out to? David, Donald Trump won Yamhill County, so when you go on record opposing his policies, you oppose the majority of Yamhill County residents. You are already doing the opposite of what you said you would do when you were running for office, and we are only 2 months in. We value the law and want it upheld. You are fine with people who break the law and allow illegal migration to go on without consequence. While you were in Washington, D.C., you aligned yourself with the same people who would not acknowledge a hero firefighter who has taken in over 45 foster kids, lawmakers who refuse to protect women and keep men out of women's sports, those who couldn't be happy for a child who fought brain cancer, and heartless Democrats who had no reaction to mothers who lost their children due to illegal immigrants raping and murdering them. Make no sense. These are your people, David. You've claimed them. And David, you oppose deporting dangerous illegal criminals. That puts you on the same side as human trafficking and holding people as hostages and slaves. Until they can pay the smuggling cartels, you should be in favor of the laws that prevent this kind of mistreatment of human beings, but instead you have made it very clear which side you are on. It is time for you to focus your attention on your job, which according to you is, in quotes, not amazing, even though you wanted it. The projects you talk about are already in the works, and our commissioners started them prior to your arrival. Traveling around needlessly to Washington, D.C. to rub shoulders with your far-left Democrat buddies accomplishes nothing for the residents of this county. Thank you, Don Paulson. All right. Moving on. We have department updates we've already done. There is none. Work session, none. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Any further discussion?
None from me.
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to H is old business. There's none. I is other business. I1, consideration of goods and services contract between Yamhill County Public Works and Siegman Excavation and Construction, Inc. for the Yamhill County 2025 chip seal contract in the amount of $236,000, retroactively effective to February 27, 2025 through September 30, 2025. I would move approval. Is there any further discussion?
None.
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I2, consideration of a letter to be submitted to in support of House Bill 3552 regarding the creation and operation of regional career centers, brought to us by Commissioner Sterrett.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, the board has worked on this for a long time with the folks in the West Valley. We have a deficit of paramedics, not only statewide, but in this community. And we know that our ambulance service area plan is really struggling to deal with the fact that if you cannot fully staff an ambulance with the required paramedic EMT staff, you've got some real problems. This is designed to focus on fire safety, to train up young people who will go into that line of work. And also, we know that we have a deficit of diesel mechanics. We know that when it comes to work that needs to be done on our agricultural enterprises, you really can't do it without that body of knowledge. So the county has given lots of money to this project. We have supported it over the years, and I think it's definitely worthwhile. So I would move approval of the board signing this letter.
Any further discussion?
No, I think everything very well said and very well written.
Perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to I3, consideration of a letter to be submitted in opposition of House Bill 3362 regarding proposing a 4% excise tax on the retail sale of new tires in Oregon, brought to you by Chair Johnston. This bill I testified on personally on Tuesday night. Yes, Tuesday night. Had all my notes ready to go just by reviewing the bill, but it definitely changed a lot when you got to hear the informational testimony that was at the beginning of the meeting from ODOT, Amtrak, and BNSF, which is the freight carrier kind of in our area. And it definitely changed my comments when I got up there. So basically, my interpretation of this is besides it being a tax that we don't need, the programs that it is going towards, I commend, but there's already one of them that was a wildlife habitat conservation style of program that would basically keep build natural barriers for wildlife to get under freeways or over freeways. We already have that through the DMV. You can buy license plates that portions of those funds will go towards that program. So I testified to that, and then I also testified that BNSF is a corporation that made over $6 billion last year, and I don't think we need to be supplementing that with our money locally here. So anyway, I wrote a letter for the BOC to look at, and if you guys all had a chance, I would like your approval to all sign on and submit it to the state.
And did I see, Chair, that a portion of this tax would also go to light rail and other?
Not, it doesn't
this one, or-
specifically say light rail, it says rail.
Okay,
So,
it's
and I think that's why Amtrak was
Amtrak.
on there, which, by the way,
Okay.
Amtrak lost over $700 million last year. And then if you dig deep into the bill, and this was me gleaning from actually other people making comments, there's over 75% of the
wow.
comments submitted were in opposition of
Mhm.
this. But one of the verbal comments was from a car dealer. And he's like, if you read it carefully enough, it actually says rail and other modes of transportation, which pretty much open it up into everything. So kind of, yes,
Okay.
rail doesn't specifically call it, but it just as well have
It's
rail,
just as vague.
buses, everything.
Yeah.
So yes, that's why.
Thank you for bringing this forward. I appreciated your testimony. You did a really good job. And I submitted testimony, and what I said was, we have so many unfinished infrastructure projects that we will never get done in this county. It doesn't appear, we've got some pretty serious hazard intersections that we're looking at. We're looking at the bypass, we're looking at McDougal, we're looking at all of the Highway 18, Lafayette Avenue area, all of those that would not benefit from this, but would be a tax. Oregonians 9 times have said no to sales taxes. This is called an excise tax, which is a sneaky workaround. But there is always an effort coming out of Salem to tax something else, but not call it what it is. We've seen it with the cat tax. We see it with virtually all of these things. And one of the things that I pointed out is, without funding for the projects that are sitting there unfinished, and yet we're basically going to be funding large corporations which lobby state and federal government for rail projects that, yes, freight rail is very important, but passenger rail has proven to be an expensive boondoggle that people do not want. They want to be able to get on roads. We're not building roads in Oregon. So thank you for doing that. And I did see the number of testimony in opposition, and hopefully this thing goes down in flames. So I'm glad you did that.
I would make a motion to approve item I3. Is there any further discussion?
None.
None from me, thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item I4, consideration of approval of the filing of a wildfire hazard classification and wildland urban interface, WUI, appeal from with the Oregon Department of Forestry? Appeal form, sorry.
Filing the form with the,
Appeal form
Yeah.
with the Oregon Department of Forestry.
so Chair, we had talked about the wildfire maps. I believe you've been in the discussions over the last
In the very beginning.
in the very
yeah.
beginning, when we were all at the table and concerned about what these maps, the inaccuracies of these maps and how it would impact property owners. And so we gave our input. It was not acknowledged. Senate Bill 762 exists. And then there was a lot of backlash. So they came up with Senate Bill 80. And what this does is, even though the governor has paused the process, you still must file an appeal by March 10th, I believe. And since we don't have any high impact designations on the wildfire map for our county, I had asked if Christian could put together something which would file a sort of a blanket appeal. Even though we don't have those designations, you and I both know that this map was wildly inaccurate going into it. So we can't be assured that we don't have property owners who would be considered that wildland urban interface. And then, excuse me, the high impact, which would make it pretty tough to sell a property, even though they say you can have your insurance impacted as a result of this. So That's where we are at. And Christian's been working on this, so maybe he can explain us what we're doing at this point, which is to just get something in.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there was some question raised about the language in the OARs and whether that opened a door and an opportunity for counties and local governments to file blanket appeals on behalf of impacted property owners. And a number of other counties are considering doing the same thing. So that's what's reflected in the form before you. As Commissioner Starrett said, we don't have any high risk properties, at least none that appear on the map. But we do have over 6,000 that are moderate risk. And there's some language in the rules that allows a governmental entity to file an appeal. It hasn't been interpreted. There's no hearings history or case history on this. So we'll see. But I think the hope and expectation is that before the appeal process even moves forward, that the legislature will be taking some action to repeal parts of that Senate bill and to revisit the map itself. So the appeal process may not even be necessary, but this will sort of keep us in line, and we'll have an ability to at least argue, hopefully, on behalf of that appeal if we have to.
Nice. All right, did you make a motion?
I move approval.
Any further discussion?
No, I
Nope.
completely agree.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Ken, I want to add an agenda item for related to liaison duties. You already have that? So I've been going to the McMinnville Fire District meetings, and I think it'd be appropriate that it gets added to somebody's liaison list, and I would advocate that that would be me. If you guys are in agreement with that, we can just go ahead and,
Yeah, if you're going, you have the relationship, you should.
Okay.
Absolutely.
cool.
Thank you.
Do we need to take a vote or just consensus is fine on that? Okay,
Consensus.
thank you very much. Item J, public hearings, none, which brings us to announcements. Want to kick us off?
Sure.
All right.
I met with the DA's office last week and met probably 90% of that crew, which was really, really great, and hear all the great work that they do. And man, what a job. I couldn't imagine. But very thankful to, and just get to know that group as I enter into this year. And also last week, Henderson House had reached out to me and about talks of potential as we start to have properties for sale and the proximity to the courthouse, right? And so I had suggested and heard that other organizations that deal with victim advocacy and so on, that we get a little bit of a roundtable together. So I was able to get Juliet's House, CASA, and Henderson House together last week, and we're going to meet again tomorrow and just discuss, kind of needs and what we have potential that they might be able to buy. So really happy to just hear. It's going nowhere right now, other than just kind of getting to know what the needs are. So keep you guys updated on that as the talks move forward. But really that kind of family justice center, a lot of services under one roof, so that way when a victim is, here at the court, they don't have to go far. Somebody can just walk them across the street, and really just one-stop shop almost, and then wherever they really fit and the needs that they have, that organization can kind of take over. So it's a cool concept. And I know that a couple of organizations have, kind of tried to talk about this for a while, and us being uniquely situated right now, it's a great time to at least have the conversation. So
Yeah, they really had their eyes set on that TTR building. But
Yeah.
the fire department ended up getting it. They went back to the drawing board.
Yeah. Dundee City Council, looks like there's been, there's a lot of community engagement happening there right now, just as their tourism and downtown areas kind of are changing. They've had a meeting that Bethany Caruso led, and they were able to add 4 or 5 people to committees that had to open chairs to, and really great there. They're going to have a new park and I think 2 new hotels in the next 3 years. So
Nice.
lots of big changes there. Newburgh, public comment. I thought this one was really great. Public comment for from Waste Management, they're going to have a open desk, open hours. Somebody can come and talk to. I know that that's been a huge issue with Waste Management, getting to talk to somebody for some answers and questions. And I know that the city council has done a really great job of applying pressure to Waste Management to be able to have access to somebody to talk to that's local, not in, I think they're Arizona or something. Yeah, I can't remember. So great job up to that city council for sure. They first, what other things that I have? Just kind of talking about their sister cities and so on. And then I also joined 33 other commissioners with AOC to talk to our 2 senators and to talk about just the potential funding cuts or freezes that we have for the projects around the county, and not only our county, but theirs as well. And just the laundry list of things that are really concerning to just the state as it pertains to counties, from SRS and roads and bridges and biological opinion from FEMA. I know I've heard Commissioner Sterrett talk about that quite a bit. And so it was really, really great to get to know a lot of those crews from, the eastern side of the state, and just what's important to them. And then not only them, but also our direct neighbors. So, yeah.
What are your concerns specifically about the cuts that would impact Yamhill County? Is there anything that you'd like to bring up for discussion? Maybe we can talk about it, find out some dollar figures.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's a lot of we don't know, right? I mean, I think that's really what is the big concern, right? Is that the potential. I mean, I read, got a paper that there's potentially $249 million of budget cuts coming for public school systems in the state, right? And that would be an example. I think freezes to vet services, transportation to the vet hospitals, to the VA, and emergency sheltering for vets. Those types of, a lot of those services are being frozen across the country, and those are concerning. We didn't talk about that necessarily on behalf of as AOC, but those would be definitely a discussion around when you're just hanging out between after sessions or something. So
Right, because I haven't been aware of any of those, and
Yeah.
we've actually heard information to the contrary about that. And also just in terms of our jurisdiction, we really don't have input on the public schools.
Mhm.
And that is not something that the Board of Commissioners typically, gets involved with. Yes, we have contracts for behavioral health in the schools.
Yeah.
But when it comes to federal funding for Oregon Department from the state
Sure.
to the counties, that's another discussion. But I just want to make sure we're not getting a narrative out there that there are impending cuts that are going to impact county services. And I really hope that we can clear that up, because that is not the case.
Well, I mean, I think that's really been what I've tried to say, that these are, concerns that I see happening
Here,
here or across the state. Yeah.
can you specifically talk about what we are concerned about?
Well, if there's
Because-
249 million, that's going to get cut across the state to our schools, that include, and the list includes for mental health and so on. Those are concerns that I have. Yes.
Okay, but I just want to be clear that,
Yeah.
that hyperbole is,
Those are concerns that I have.
you
yeah.
have concerns, but they're not based on issues that we are facing. So I think we have to be very careful about
Mhm.
incendiary types of narratives. And
Well, I think we have to be careful. Yes, I agree.
I just think if we were going to have those concerns, our department heads would have come to us and said, we are concerned. But I can tell you, based on meetings and discussions I've had this week, we are not looking at that. Whether it's funding for senior services, whether it's funding for some of our HHS issues. I want to push back on that. So,
Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, that's different from what I've heard, and so.
but if you've heard it, please share it with us, because I haven't.
Yeah, and I'm I'm doing my best to try to get that, so.
Well, if you could get it and bring it to us
Sure.
instead of saying it first, because again, now we're in the position of having to say to constituents who are saying, what am I going to lose? What is going to happen to me?
Yeah.
And it's not.
I think that's we'll see, but.
No, it's not.
Okay,
So if it does happen, then we have that information, we can talk to our constituents, but to have people alarmed by that kind of narrative, I'm sorry, but I think it's not doing a good service to our seniors and to the people who are expecting us to make sure we've got our ducks in a row. I'll leave it there.
thank you.
You wrapped
I
up?
think that was it, yeah.
All right. Commissioner Sterrett?
Yes, wanted to go back to the Crabtree Park discussion, and CPRD the other night decided to continue the discussion next month. They want to take a look at some of the maintenance costs that would be, they would be impacted by in terms of the park. The Sanders Estate, as we know, this has been a beautiful piece of property in Dundee that has been held up by enormous amounts of red tape. And there is now motivation on the side of the city leaders, the city council, and CPRD to get through the regulatory process. There are 22 regulations and conditions of approval which would make this thing never happen. The woman who gave this property to the city is, I believe, in her 90s. And if this continues, she will never see this come to fruition. So hopefully there's an IGA in the works and this thing can happen, and hopefully they can break ground on the park after 5 years of waiting. Northwest Senior Disability Services, again, met with a variety of commissioners from around around our region, and we talked about workload considerations for case managers, but there are no funding cuts. Local Government Advisory Committee, which just basically pulls together housing and ODHS and OHA and talks about the concerns of the counties. Talked with Fairbour's Paxurest, who is the ODHS director, and he talked about his listening tour. And also the Oregon Health Director talked about the implementation of state county priorities. One of the things I suggested, and once again, we have, we're looking at OHA with a budget of $36 billion. We're looking at, as we know, we've got 36 counties, and I suggested we take a regional approach to this enormous administrative burden that we have at OHA, which we know hasn't been always very efficient with that money. And I said, let's less centralization, more regionalization. That would have to happen at the state level. So I have my doubts, but at least I put it out there. Board of Health, we have 4 deaths in the last week of overdoses. And I wanted to bring up some of the impacts of the concerns that we have about the importation of drugs into the state. We know we're on I-5, which is basically the conduit to bring drugs into the state, and all over the Western Seaboard, and the East Coast has their own problems. But 68% of all the drug poisonings in the last couple of years were caused by primarily fentanyl. We know that fentanyl precursors are coming from China, going to Mexico. The manufacturer is now being brought here. This has to stop because the deaths will not stop until the supplies stop. So hopefully, border policies will make it so that we don't have unaccompanied minors, human trafficking, which I have to say, if you're in touch with the sheriff's office, our deputies are impacted by illegal grows and well-armed cartels. And this is not, again, an alarmist type of thing, is we have to look at who's here and who is impacting public safety. So wanted to bring that up. Also submitted a couple of some testimony on restrictions on rebuilding homes. We met with the ambulance service area to finalize our plan, which again, we have to deal with response times and different things like that. And I think I will just stop there.
All right. Thank you very much. And on the CPRD thing, so we're working right now. Travis is working out to see if he can get some power to the sportsman's club that's there. So I also asked him to reach out to them to see if it's a possibility that they also might be interested in Crabtree. So there's definitely some more avenues there.
Bidding wars, huh?
Well, maybe not bidding, but definitely solutions to the problem, maybe. Last Thursday, we had a fire district meeting. They brought back a couple nice programs to help with recruitment. One is the Student Sleeper Program. That's where the college students live at the station while taking classes related to fire or EMS at their local college, which would be Chemeketa. The other one that they brought, and it would cover, they not cover, but they have money that would go towards expenses like books and schooling and living expenses also. The other program is the Student Internship Program, where fire students can come in and get basically kind of that co-op work experience with being hands-on. So I like the direction the fire district's headed. They hit the ground running. So Tuesday, had it right along with the sheriff, which was already brought up, looked at and saw progress for getting all the tower sites cleaned up over the past years prior to us. They've just kind of been let go with prior companies that were taking care of them. And as soon as Sheriff Elliott got in there, he hit the ground running and started addressing some of the issues that we had with just overgrown brush and out-of-date equipment that was just piled on the ground, and they're looking good. Tuesday also gave testimony opposing House Bill 3362, which we covered. Wednesday had solid, Wednesday was an interesting day. Solid Waste Advisory Committee met. They received an update from code enforcement, which we have. Nestor has been on, he was hired late last year to replace our last code enforcement officer. He's doing really good, super happy. Right after that, in fact, I had to leave solid waste early because I had a MURAC meeting with McMinnville, and we discussed our properties that are coming up for sale within the next, some immediately, most within the next year, probably as we get moved into the new Yamhill County campus building. All in tandem while my wife is driving me to the COG dinner, or Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments dinner. So there's a lot of overlap, but thank you to her for allowing me to be able to multitask. So at the COG dinner, I had the privilege of presenting the Regional Cooperative Project Award. The list is very, very long for everybody that received this award. But it was very interesting reading through. It was 2 pages, and the second page was pretty much all the award recipients. And it's easier for me to tell you who wasn't involved. And it's very little. It's literally every city in this county was involved in this project. And just kind of a rough overview is what they did. This is the first in the nation project where it combined public, private, and nonprofits to create basically a digitized platform to streamline the application process for building permits, among a couple other things. And it digitized over 41,000 tax lots in the county. So it's a huge project. It stemmed, seems credit mostly goes to Newburgh Mayor Bill Rossacker for starting this back in 2022. I'd have to go verify that.
That's when he first started, so yeah.
Yeah. But kudos to him, but then the list just grows from there, from a bunch of different nonprofits groups, SEDCOR, the city of Lafayette, Mayor Malcolmson, former mayors. It was a huge list. So anyway, super big honor to be able to give those guys that award that night. If you need any more information, I posted on social media if you're on social media. And then Friday's full day of AOC and Monday's a full day of AOC.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
That's it?
That's
What have you
it.
been doing all week?
Yeah, I know. Been meeting with mayors. There's nothing else good for the order. I will close this session out at 10:44.